The rumbling dooms Paradise Island. Those who are for the rumbling is that, well, the rumbling was the only way to free Paradise Island. Not only do I disagree that this was the only way to free Paradise Island, but I also disagree that this was for the sake of Paradise Islanders. In regards to why I said that Aaron forced the rumbling is for two reasons. The first one has to do with Aaron choosing Armin over Erwin on who gets the Colossal Titan. I already know people's gonna think, well, oh, that's old news, this and the other. But apparently, future Aaron had Erwin lift up his arm in denial. That way Levi would give the serum to Armin instead of Erwin. Obviously, Aaron did this because he wanted to save his friend's life, and less so because he wanted the betterment of Paradise Island. Because if he did, he would have chosen Erwin over Armin. Does Armin have the potential to be like Erwin? Yes. So I like what someone said about potential, which is just that it's just a nice way of telling someone that you could be better, but you're not. And the other thing about potential is that they could have potential, but it never be fully realized, which I believe is the case for Armin. He has the potential, but it's never fully realized. And it makes sense why. Erwin had years to become the man he did. And Armin has just months, a few years, which is not enough time. The second reason I say that the rumbling was forced by Aaron is because the attack on Marley was just awful. It was not a good attack. He pretty much forces the other nations to side with Marley because the nation leaders were there and he put their lives in danger, or he did end up killing some of them. So it made sense that they had no other choice but to align with Marley, so they forced the meeting of nations. I dive deeper into this concept in my other video entitled The Rumbling is Dumb, so you can check that out if you want more info on that. So getting to the heart of the video, I will be covering two main reasons why this affects Paradise Island, and that's looking at the present effects of the rumbling and the after effects of the rumbling, because I believe the aftermath is just as important, or is actually more important than the present effects the rumbling has on Paradise Island. Beginning with the enactment of the rumbling, the Colossal Titans are coming from Wall Cena, which are the inner walls. But in order for the Colossal Titans from Wall Cena to get to Marley, they'll have to go through Wall Rosa and Wall Maria. Now, Wall Maria is already lost, so I don't believe there's no one living within Wall Maria, but there are people living within Wall Rosa, and those people are Paradise Islanders. Not only that, but they are poor people of Paradise Island, for only the wealthy or the military lives within Wall Cena. And we see throughout Attack on Titan how there has been issues amongst the classes between the wealthy and the low class. And this was Grisha's main thing when he confronted the royal family, was like, hey, my family lives outside the walls, so if Marley attacks, they're the first to go. And if you release the Colossal Titans, they will also be killed, because they will be in direct line of the Colossal Titans, because we see how the Titans will have to go through the Trouse district and the Shiganshina district. Sorry if I butchered the name. The very district that Aaron, Armin, and Mikasa comes from. Now, I already know someone's going to point out, well, they were been planning on sending Colossal Titans to stop the meeting of nations. Whereas that is true. One, it doesn't sound like they started the preparations to enact that, which would involve getting the people to move out of the way for the Colossal Titans to go there. But secondly, even if they did have this set up, the Aaron released way more Titans than expected, so their perimeters that they covered would be way off. Edit me here. After looking at the previous clip I just added, I realized that the plan was to release the Titans from the Shig Wall, which is outside of Paradise Island, so no Paradise Islanders would be affected by it, so there will be no need for an evacuation plan. But as also seen, Aaron releases all the Colossal Titans, which will involve the trampling of everyone that's outside of the Sheena walls. Porters, Jaegerists, and anti-Jaegerists ends up getting turned into Titans. This in turn causes a lot of destruction within Wall Cena, leading to more lives lost. Not just Marley and Soldier lives lost, but also Paradise Islander lives lost, and having Paradise Islanders have to kill their own comrades. And I would say one scene that highlights this best from season 4B is when we get the little girl that Sasha has saved go through the same thing she went through when Marley sent Zeke. to turn people into Titans. There's literally no difference between these two instances, only that the perpetrator now, instead of it being Marley, it is by Zeke and Eren. So the question arises is Eren better than his enemy, or just the same or even worse than they are? According to that scene, they are no different, for both of them pushed that little girl through the same trauma she went through years back. So now moving from the present effects of the rumbling to the aftermath of the rumbling, I would say an aftermath that would occur right away, honestly, is the environmental state of the world, especially for Paradise Island. For humans are not the only ones affected by the rumbling. We see how animals will also be affected by the rumbling, and also like trees and plants will be affected as well. And those are foods that humans use to live off of. But without that and the wreck of the ecosystem, like the planet would change drastically. And I imagine like their water sources will also be depleted because of how much steam these colossal titans are giving off. And speaking of the colossal titan steam, I also imagine that this will have huge effects on the ozone layer as well. So basically, I see the Earth just being too toxic for humans to live on. So I'll see Paradise Islanders having to go underground. But luckily, they have underground. But issues still arise if all Paradise Islanders surviving went underneath ground. For one, I imagine those who probably ran underneath ground when the rumbling started would come out and pretty much die immediately from the atmosphere being toxic. Others will realize, oh, we cannot go outside. But the next thing that arises is that it honestly looked like when we did get images of the underground, it was already overpopulated. So then getting the survivors left over from above ground going underneath ground, I see this becoming even more overpopulated. Plus, it also looked like there was already barely any resources like food and clothing for everyone in underground. So again, with the pretty much doubling or tripling of population in underground, it would make food and clothing very scarce, especially given that they did not plan on going underneath ground. And with overpopulation, you will also have an increase in crime such as theft and murder, and an increase in immorality such as those against females. Hopefully you guys can put two and two together since I cannot say the word on here. And I also imagine there will be an increase in people forfeiting their lives as well, because they are faced with this reality that us depleting Paradise Islanders even more. They will also pretty much have to repopulate the Earth, given that they will be the only people around. So that will also mean them having to increase birth rates. But I also imagine mortality rates. Or I also see that there will be a rise in diseases and probably even new diseases as well, dropping tremendously because they're forced underneath ground and it's not even getting the basic needs a human being needs to survive. So all in all, humanity will be back in the dark ages. I would even go so far as back to like the Stone Ages, honestly, because I could go on and on about this, but we need to move on. But the main thing we need to get out of this is that this would pretty much lead to the question of, was the rumbling worth it? Is this actually freedom? And you will have people say, no, this is not freedom, or no, the rumbling was not worth it. That maybe it wouldn't be too bad to have Marley take over, or maybe euthanization was not that bad because, hey, I never planned on having children anyway. I'd rather have no children than to be forced to be a cow, basically, just birthing nonstop and eventually die from childbirth. Oh my gosh. And then imagine going outside years later and then, you know, it's overrun by animals. And these animals' biology are probably different too. And they never seen humans before, so they just go straight up attack you. And so the other aftermath Paradise Island would have to face that would deplete their population even more is, what if the rumbling is not successful? What if there are nations that remain untouched from the rumbling? Now, I will now be delving into manga stuff, so you have been forewarned. So in the manga, lo and behold, the rumbling is not successful. He kills 80% of humanity. I really wish Asayama told us how much of the world the rumbling covered. Like, I feel like we're just lacking so much in the world coverage of the rumbling that it's ridiculous. But so I'm gonna just have to guess how much of the world was covered. No matter the number, you will probably still have nations that remain untouched from the rumbling. I would say a real world example of this would be the aftermath of World War II. The main ally that is remembered for not being touched by the war is America. Yes, we got hit with Pearl Harbor, but that was a ship. And out of World War II, America not only got itself out of the Great Depression, but it also became the superpower. I believe England was a superpower before America, but because of the damages England got from World War II, it was unable to pretty much keep that title. Edit me here. While doing research to see how America became a superpower after World War II, many sources also highlighted how America headed the peace talks and the reconstruction of the world per se, especially after World War One and also seen in World War II. So I also see other nations that remain untouched from the rumbling also heading the peace talks with whatever humanity is left over, and also heading the reconstruction of the world. So I see the same thing happening here within the Attack on Titan world. I see a nation who remains untouched from the rumbling taking over the title of superpower from Marley, since Marley is reeling from the effects of the rumbling. And I also see them taking this chance to pretty much conquer the other nations, especially Paradise Island. If anything, I see them enslaving the Paradise Islanders that are left over because they too were affected by the rumbling and are reeling from that. And I see their justification for enslaving the Paradise Islanders or mistreating them being the same reason why Marley mistreated the Eldians, which is that they would lord this time the rumbling and Eren Yeager over their head, like the Marleyans lorded over the Titan War over the Marley and Eldians' head. A real-world example of this will be Germany. If I ask you what do you think of when I say Germany, most of you probably would think of 1940s Germany and the leader during that time. Plus, Eren took away the Titan ability, so they don't even have that to rely on. And I just realized they can't even use 3D maneuvering gear because they relied on the Titans hardening for their fuel for those things. Plus, they never fought a human battle before. All their tactics are based off fights against Titans. And on top of that, they are still technologically behind by the rest of the world. So Paradise Island will basically be in the same spot, actually in a worse spot than when they were under Marley, just with new management and in much worse state at that. So it's interesting that someone that has the ability to see into the future could not see that this event they were causing would lead to this many consequences that actually does not benefit Paradise Island in the slightest. One person says it best when he said that the rumbling is just a band-aid solution to a much greater issue. The issues of racism and oppression has been around since there's been two people on Earth. And when you seek to solve a very complex issue like oppression through something very simple like the rumbling, because it is simple, it's simply just killing off the oppressors, of course it's a solution that's not going to last at all, especially given that these issues were present in Paradise Island themselves with the issue of class and racism as well, because they were racist towards the Asian clan and the Ackermans. So all in all, the goal of this video is to not convert people to be against the rumbling. The goal of this video is to simply have people think more about the rumbling or see the rumbling from a larger perspective. So if you still is for the rumbling, but now you're thinking about the aftermath of the rumbling, I would say I've done my job, that this video has done its job. And so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Have a great day, week, month, year, decade. Bye!